The only word I had to describe my disgust is jinkies. If there is one thing the internet agrees on, it's that you should never change anything ever. I hope you die. Sincerely, Velma.
Today we are going to be doing a discussion. Today's discussion is on a show that I didn't really want to talk about, but here we are, that being Velma. Now, I think I brought up Velma all the way back when I started this channel, and I mentioned that I would have to talk about it eventually when we got more info on it, and now I feel like we have enough info to actually talk about this, so let's talk about Velma, unfortunately.
Yeah, because honestly, from the trailer, I didn't think it was going to be good to begin with, and now that I know more about it, I think it's going to be worse than what I thought.
So, I want to start by saying, I know what's going on here. It's identity politics, it's race politics. They want you to bitch about race. They want it to make it a race thing so they can excuse their bad writing. So I'm going to say this ahead of time. Shaggy is black, Daphne is Asian, and Velma is Indian. This is not relevant to if the show is going to be good or not. They are this thing because the person writing Velma is Indian. They are this thing because they want to get attention for Daphne. They want to get attention for Shaggy. They want you to bitch about it. They want you to complain about it. They want you to be their straw man Fred. Do not be their straw man Fred. Be yourself. Critique the writing. Don't buy into race politics so then they have an excuse to talk about race. They only exist to bitch about race. Do not give them the discussion. Do not stoop to their level and bitch at them about this stuff. It's not relevant. It shouldn't be relevant. Let's talk about why this fails as a show without resorting to say, that's not my Shaggy. He don't look white. We can do this. I know we can. We're intelligent. Let's have an intelligent conversation.
Because there's nothing wrong with them being non-white characters. What's wrong with the show is the abysmal writing and the fact that they are right out the gate attacking the fans. People who may not like the new changes, but might still give it a try. They might give it a watch. But the fact that they're attacking them right out of the gate is going to make people unhappy with them and not want to give them that chance. They are hurting themselves by doing that. And it's not a good precedent because I think it just shows what the rest of the show is going to be like.
So the only race argument I will have is at the beginning, and I just want to get this out of the way. They have made Fred be the representation of toxic whiteness, saying that Fred takes credit for other people's work because he's white. He's a femboy who has daddy issues, hasn't hit puberty yet. They made him the biggest loser ever. And for me, Fred is the OG man. For everyone around, you have to give them like a descriptive, like Shaggy is hungry, Scooby is scared, Daphne is woman, Velma is smart. With Fred, that guy's just Fred. You don't need anything else. You could say Fred Jock, but that isn't a good description because we don't see him play sports a lot. Fred, it's Fred. Everyone has a catchphrase. You can name Daphne's, fucking Velma's, Shaggy's, Scooby's. Fred, no one knew what the fuck he said. Because Fred is just Fred. He does have a catchphrase. It's let's split up gang. But like, people would rather have Fred say fuck just because Fred is Fred. And the fact that they are attacking my man Fred makes me very upset because Fred is like the best character. And I hate that Fred is getting the hate when he doesn't deserve it. Like, Fred should be allowed to exist and not be bullied in his own show. And Fred is being written out of the show because he is in jail for murders he did not commit, and they have to prove his innocence. So we're not even going to get a lot of Fred, which is very sad.
You see, this is what I think they're going to do with Fred. Because right out the gate, we know Velma has a crush on Fred. And Fred's going to, more than likely from how they've kind of framed him so far, going to be a sexist asshole. Because it's like, oh, he's never had to talk to a girl like Velma before, and yada yada yada. So it's probably going to be one of those things where, like, she learns that Fred is not all he cracks up to be because they're going to make him toxic, and have her get over him and be with someone else. Like, I think they're doing Fred the dirtiest, and that is the biggest reason why I'm not going to like the show, because it's just a hit piece on Fred.
Yeah, this is my thing is like, they're not putting Scooby in the show. They technically aren't putting Shaggy in the show. They're writing Daphne, Velma, and Fred to be completely different people in the meanest lights. Like, Velma literally represents the trolls that are hating on the show. So, like, Velma herself is a way to attack the audience. Daphne is still just basically a non-character, regardless of the fact that they're going to make her a slut. Like, she's still a non-character, and there's a whole conversation to have about sexualizing minors that I don't want to have. I don't want to accuse people of being creeps like other people are, but it's weird. Don't want to talk about it. But the thing is like, they can't use the iconic Scooby shit, so what's even the point of this show existing? And I have my own little conspiracy theory, and this requires you knowing the behind the scenes of another WB show, that being Gotham. In Gotham, they were doing a weird origin story for Batman, like they're doing here with Scooby, and they tried to get the permission to use the Joker. They were not given permission to use the Joker. They had two separate characters that were basically the Joker, who weren't allowed to be the Joker. And even at the very end of the series, he still wasn't allowed to be called the Joker. He was dressed like the Joker, he looked like the Joker, he had a similar gimmick and backstory to the Joker, but they weren't allowed to call him the Joker because they were afraid of it hurting his image. So I think the reason why Scooby isn't in the show, and the reason why Shaggy was changed to Norville, is because Shaggy and Scooby hold the fucking franchise. You are not allowed to call him Shaggy, and you are not allowed to use Scooby. And the writer is coming up with reasons to why they didn't use this, because we don't want to put kids show characters in this kids show aimed at adults. And the main thing the show is trying to do, it's trying to be a ripoff of the Harley Quinn show. And the reason why the Harley Quinn show works, and this is gonna fucking fail, I'm calling it now, it won't get a season 2, is because Harley Quinn is an adult character. She was always themed towards adults. She has always been a sexual character. Harley Quinn can work for an adult audience. Harley Quinn is basically the Deadpool of DC. Meanwhile, Velma is a fucking nobody. Velma is a stick in the mud in her own show.
Wow.
I'm saying it now. You can dispute me in a second. Velma is a stick in the mud in her own fucking show. There are no adult characters in Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo is eccentrically a kid franchise. And unless you're going to go full Adult Swim, which you're not, where you do like a fun parody of the characters, it ain't going to happen. You're trying to do a meta parody. And meta parodies just piss people off. Like fucking Harvey Birdman, fucking Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That shit will forever be endearing. But this shit is going to age terribly because it relies on modern fucking references. When they describe Fred, they bring up Trump.
It's going to age like milk. And I personally really like Velma. I think a show around Velma could work. But I think right off the bat they're handling it poorly. It's going to be poorly done. They are not going to write her well in the slightest, because, like you said, you were calling her a stick in the mud and stuff before, and I was disagreeing with you. But I think for this show, you're going to be 100% right, and I don't like that, because I like Velma. I think she's a cool character. I like that she's the smart one of the group. And I'm honestly really surprised and put off by the fact that there are no adult characters in this, because way back when it was like first announced and we got that like first shot of the characters where the woman had her brain ripped out of her head or whatever, I thought they were in college. I figured all of them would be in college, but no. Like, Fred's 16, they're in high school, and they're in this like raunchy adult comedy kind of horror thing that's going to be sexual. You already know it's going to be sexual for adults. I don't want to get into it, but that's off-putting to me. I don't like it. It makes me not want to watch it more.
I guess at the end of the day, Scooby Natural did it better because with Scooby Natural, it took a typical Scooby-Doo plot in a Scooby-Doo setting and introduced conflict to Scooby-Doo. Characters could be hurt, the ghost was actually killing people, there were real consequences to the Scooby-Doo universe. I think the way to handle this is like the way that the late 90s movies did, where they introduced conflict to the Scooby-Doo universe and it is the pre-established Scooby-Doo universe. I think trying to do it this way will never work. It has never worked, and this spin-off is going to be as quickly forgotten as the Cartoon Network live-action movies. No one's going to bring this up for anything other than being a failure. And I hope that it doesn't take Velma's reputation down with this show, because this show is not going to get a season 2. They are going to axe it as soon as they fucking can. Velma is everything that is wrong with this mindset when it comes to writing pre-established characters. If you want to do this type of story and you want to take characters in this direction, come up with your own fucking characters. These characters predate you. They're older than you. They might even be older than your parents. Do not shit on these icon characters. These characters built up Cartoon Network. These characters built up modern day Warner. They need to be treated with some respect, and the fact that they can't shows that this show doesn't deserve to exist.
Yeah, 100%. And they keep saying they want it to be a more serious show and this and that. And they claim, I know they can't use Scooby, but they claim that they don't want Scooby in there because that makes it too much like a kid's show. But literally, Mystery Incorporated. Mystery Incorporated was still a kid's show, yes. But it was a more serious take on all of the characters. It didn't have as many wacky hijinks as a lot of the previous ones did. And to me, that just shows they're lying, and this is not going to be a good show, because if they wanted it to be more serious, they could. It's already been done a lot better.
This is a Scooby-Doo show that's afraid to be a Scooby-Doo show, and in the end, that's what's going to make it not work.